Welcome back. We have Matt Atchity with us right now.
The big kahuna.
Hello. From Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Hello. What did he say?
Got some good movies this week.
We're excited.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Very
there's
excited.
a little movie that's coming out.
Little
right?
movie.
Like a little tiny one.
Little dinosaur movie. You know, you might go see it. It's cute.
I'll
No,
definitely see it.
Jurassic World. This is a big, epic return to the theaters for the Jurassic Park franchise. This movie takes place a few years after the events of the first few movies. The company that worked on the first Jurassic Park, InGen Corporation, has reopened the theme park. They've called it Jurassic World, and they've actually managed to make it successful. They managed to open it. They're getting 20,000 people a day, but attendance is a little bit off. So they decide that they need a new attraction, and the best way to do that is to make a new dinosaur.
This is the one that was just discovered, though.
Yeah,
right?
well, this is one that they create. They genetically engineer a new design.
But don't they know?
Well, that's the problem, right?
You would think.
I mean, this movie would be boring if it was like, oh, great, a new attraction, and everything goes well. No. This dinosaur gets out. It's called the Indominus Rex. It's based on a T-Rex, but it's got a lot of other things in it. And it turns out to be terrifying. It gets out.
Look,
right.
These.
Wreaks havoc and destroys the park, and everything goes haywire, and you get all of the action you want to see.
How's Chris Pratt? Because he's been, well, him and Bryce.
You know,
they've been
Chris
on the,
Pratt
promotion track.
is, I think, and a lot of critics think, he's a little miscast here, in that he plays this role really serious, and he's kind of this man's man character, and you kind of lose a lot of his charm in this.
You want a little more of a wink?
Yeah, you get none of that, and to the point that by the end of the film, you expect, okay, at any minute he's going to let us in on the show.
Right.
Kind of never does. The other problem with this movie is it takes too long to get started. Right now, the critics mostly like it, but it's 20, 30 minutes before the action really starts. Unlike, say, the first film or Jaws, where you get this kind of enigmatic danger right off the bat, and then all of the other kind of more mellow scenes that happen early on, there's this sense of dread over it. That doesn't happen.
But people going to this movie already know things are going to happen, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because you do still sit through a lot of like, okay, like you're kind of waiting, like, all right, come on, let's get to the dinosaurs.
Can I ask you a question? Other than B.D. Wong, is there anyone from the first, the original?
No, they make reference to the Hammond character played by Attenborough, but B.D. Wong's the only one who comes over.
Okay.
And sure enough, he's the guy that has created this new dinosaur, and when things go haywire, he's like, well, what do you expect? Come on. So, but ultimately, it's fresh.
We need a good medical ethicist with
yes.
these people. All right, 71%.
71%.
Which is not bad. Okay, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
Yeah, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl
Really
is a teen coming-of-age story that's a lot smarter than most of these. This is about a guy named Greg who is an awkward high school senior. His mom kind of forces him to spend time with this girl who's been recently diagnosed with leukemia. And it's a very touching, smart, funny, and emotionally moving story about the 8 or 9 months that they spend together. Really good cast here. Great supporting cast. John Bernthal, Connie Britton, Nick Offerman, Molly Shannon playing the adult characters here. This is Thomas Mann, who showed up in the Project X movie from a couple years back. Olivia Cook from Bates Motel plays the girl. This is a really good movie. The critics really like it, and it's certified fresh at 87%.
So you like it?
I like this one a lot.
You liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Now, live from New York.
Live from New York. This one is a frustrating documentary. This is a documentary that covers the last 40 years of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, the first 40 years of Saturday Night Live. It really talks to a lot of the cast members and talked to Lorne Michaels about the kind of inception of the show, and they get into its kind of influence on the culture at large. They spend a lot of time with, for instance, Al Gore. They actually talk to Al Gore. They talk about, Al Franken, who was on the show, talks about whether or not SNL helped lose the election for Al Gore. And they talk about how Will Ferrell's portrayal of George Bush actually softened him of George W. Bush and made people feel like, that might be a guy I want to spend time with.
Well, how about H.W.? Wouldn't be prudent.
Right, they talk about that. They talk to Dana Carvey. So great cast participation here. Chevy Chase, Tina Fey, Lorraine Newman, Jane Curtin.
You're going to say but.
But
I see this word called hagiographic.
Yes.
As one critic puts
That's
it.
worshiping of saints.
and
it's
that's
making
the
it
way
better
this
than what it
movie
actually
kind of
is.
comes off,
Right.
in that it's very positive, and it almost feels like something you might see on NBC
Do they get into
before
all
the
drugs
show
and
comes
all of
on.
that?
No, that's the thing, is it doesn't get into any of that. Yes, they talk a little bit about how Garrett Morris, who was the first cast member that was black in that original cast had trouble getting some of the parts written for him. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus talks about how when she came on, it was kind of a boys' club.
What about the hostility between Bill Murray and Chevy Chase?
None of that gets covered. None of that gets covered. And so that's what's really missing from here is a lot of stories that we know about kind of the...
So you're saying it's a hagiography?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Is it hagiography?
It's hagiography,
now,
I think.
that being said, the participation of the cast members here is great, and it's kind of worth watching on that alone, but there's so much more to this story. The other thing I want to point out is this is a movie that really, once you realize that Mike Myers, when he was doing Dr. Evil in the Austin Powers movie, is doing Lorne Michaels.
He's doing Lorne Michaels?
When you hear Lorne Michaels talk about something, it's hard not to think of Dr. Evil. When you watch this, and it's available on demand, when you watch this, it does sound a little bit like Dr. Evil is narrating the movie.
Yeah.
But, so it's only 46%. It's rotten. The critics are split. There is something to be said for the talent participation, and that is kind of worth it.
Do they point out, we talked about this yesterday, the show is not called Saturday Night Live because Howard Cosell had a show that year called Saturday Night Live.
Right.
What did it start out of?
Saturday Night.
Saturday Night.
So Saturday Night, there you go.